Yeah, you're asking a very important question, listener. Look, the right gym is very important to find. Now, that having been said, finding the right gym can be next to impossible. Why? Ego. You know, you go into an ecosystem and you mess up the pecking order. Animals, which is we are as human beings, do not like that. I had a buddy who I trained with for a while, Jason Lambert, ex UFC Bellator fighter, and he said to me, Derek, when you go into a place and if you wreck that equilibrium, you better make those guys your friends. And if you don't make those guys your friends, you got to go. And you know, when I was up at El Nino, which is the picture back there, I wasn't into making friends. I was living a criminal lifestyle. I was hanging out with mostly prostitutes and just doing whatever I wanted to do, whatever gave me pleasure. And you know, to them, I was, I'm sure, some freak, right? Like they're all young fighters trying to survive. Paying a prostitute probably would be anathema to them at the time. They hadn't really grown up yet. And particularly this day behind you, you see something very ironic. So I had left El Nino. I was down in San Diego. I hadn't really been training. And I came back up. And that day, everybody kicked my butt. You know, my boy Carl knocked me down with a flying sidekick, which I thought was cool. Javier Vigny always beat me up. He's too big to fight. What can you say? Dan Black beat me up, and we used to have great gym wars. You know, and I did okay with the other guys, but the guy all the way to the left, here's the irony. You see that big poster behind us? You can't really see all of it. That was my boot camp. I ran for those guys. And, you know, I talked about later how when I was there, you know, most of those guys would avoid me. Now, true, they were smaller fighters than me. I was like 220. So I had to spar with Carl almost all the time. But they invented this group thing in their head, like, well, Derek's terrible, that's why we don't train with him, which was just absolutely absurd. It didn't make any sense. I knew more about fighting than 90% of those guys. And when I came back that day and they all kicked my butt because I was out of shape, you have no idea how many people were like, Derek, I saw that. They were so happy to see me get my butt kicked. What is that about? That's about ego, guys. Like, when you have people that are waiting for you to fail, you're in the wrong place. I'll tell you what. So after my experience at El Nino, which was damaging as a person and with my ego for me, I went and I joined a jiu-jitsu gym when I got out. When I saw the same ego stuff going on, I just left. That's what you got to do when the ego is so important that you're the only thing that matters and whatnot. And the guy, by the way, on the left, it's funny. I talked about how Jake and Gil and them used to avoid me. And he'd been there that one day. He's like, I saw you get your butt kicked by Carl and Javier. Like that mattered. Like, yeah, I got my butt kicked one day. Got my butt kicked a lot. That's what happens when you train every day with people. But look, you know, that whole group think went through there. According to them, I was a terrible fighter and I couldn't do anything. And people will make those things up. The one thing you can't do is ever get into their lies, their ego protection, and degrade yourself for it. You got to come out of that and you got to go someplace where you'll be appreciated. And it's not easy to do. Look, there's a lot of ego in fight gyms. It's what it is. Everybody, read my book, Warrior of the Light, to read about ego in fight gyms.